Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Vancouver, Canada. So today we are heading into Fort Langley again in winter. And let's feel the ambience of the winter holidays together here in Fort Langley. Yeah, so remember I sketched those heritage buildings on the left in the summertime in the warm sunshine. And we're trying to find parking here. It's always pretty hard to find parking in the very center of Fort Langley. But yeah, I'm just gonna go through these blocks. And whoa, look at this large truck with golden wings. And here we are, the official sign of Fort Langley. And we are outside a lovely candy shop with these beautiful, cute holiday ornaments. And it's a pretty cold winter day to stay out there for too long. So let's keep ourselves warm and cozy inside this bakery cafe. Whoa, so they have these beautiful wreaths on the windows and an abundance of bakery items, a lot of customers lunching in here. And yeah, nice little Christmas tree. Here I am sitting at the end of a common table with my latte and two pastry items. And of course, I'm going to sketch these things in my sketchbook first before consuming them. So I'm going to start drawing my cup of latte first, the ellipse of the opening, the body, the handle, and the thin brim of the cup. And quickly doodling the latte art and the little metallic spoon. And now the cup is really standing out from the page with the help of the saucer. And now I'm starting to draw the ellipse shape of the fruit tart. And it had a sense of thickness with a crust area here, very much like a crescent laying down. And now I'm having fun drawing this pile of raspberries and blueberries and strawberries. So these little circles are blueberries. And a lot of them are raspberries in these round cone shapes. So I'm just gonna get these large shapes of raspberries that I see before getting caught up with those little details inside. Yeah. And then using these gentle little curves to show the scales, texture of the raspberries. And yeah, so they're in slightly different sizes in different positions laying on the tart. And these blueberries could be easily defined with that little belly button shape. And yeah, using gentle curving segments to suggest the detail of the tart's brim. And then drawing the little plate holding the tart. It's very satisfying to get these circles and ovals and curves done. And yeah, it's always fun to overlap things together on your page. You don't have to copy exactly what's in front of you. Now I'm drawing the triangle shape of the wedge of cake. And then the thickness of the first layer on top, the spongy part. And then the creamy area in irregular, bumpy lines. Yeah, and the last layer of the cake, following my observations, these random bumps and slits. And the right side of the base is overlapped by the fork. Okay, and then moving on to drawing the handle of the fork. And the thickness of the fork, which is very thin. And then finishing the ellipse shape of the plate. So none of these circles are perfect circles. All of them are ovals because we're looking at these plates from an angle. And don't forget to draw the brims of your cups and bowls and plates. And also the thickness of the cake's crust. Now I'm using these loose squiggly lines to suggest the the icing sugar and the spongy texture of the cake mixed together. And these loose circles of different sizes for the pores on the spongy areas. And this cake is called Victoria Sponge Cake. Yeah, very fancy name. Now I'm ready to start painting watercolors on top. So the first layer for the coffee is yellow ochre and a little bit of orange. Same for the pastries first layer as well for most of the areas. The coffee and pastry, they share similar colors. So I'm using stippling brush marks to skip around the icing sugar area and leave it white. No overpainting. And second layer. So for the second layer, I'm mixing orange and a bit of burnt sienna together, wet into moist. And leaving some yellowish areas from the first layer untouched for the foamy, the creamy feel of the latte. And third layer for the latte is burnt sienna with a tiny bit of permanent violet mixed into it. The brim area of latte, they're usually shaded. And I'm going to continue to use this same color from the latte to shade the crust area of the cake, using a slightly diluted version of the same color in between the sprinkled icing sugar, using these curving brush marks. As we are painting these spongy areas, the icing sugar looks more snowy white. And yeah, this is the idea of contrast. If you want to show something that's sparkly, that's shiny, you have to paint the dark areas around it. And all right, and some more accentuation for the thickness area. Now I'm grabbing some permanent rose to paint the jam area, sandwiched in between, using a lighter value to start with and a medium value of the same color, permanent rose. Mixing a bit of permanent violet for the highest level of contrast. And so the jam is really shining. Okay, so now ready to have fun painting the raspberries. So I'm mixing permanent red with a little bit of permanent violet. So it's kind of like a pink purple tone that I got, and using the stippling brush marks to convey the surface texture of the raspberries, leaving some little paper white areas for the shine of icing sugar sprinkled onto these raspberries. And the next step is to suggest volume. So I just mix a bit more permanent violet into permanent red. And as you can see, I'm shading the bottom half of most of these raspberries. And then the next layer, I'm adding an even higher ratio of permanent violet for the bottom 30% of these berries. Now I'm painting these blueberries, which is the mix of cobalt blue and a little bit of permanent violet. The first layer is a relatively lighter value compared to the next layers to get the frosty skin of these blueberries. So yeah, as you can see, I left some little paper white spots on those blueberries just to let them shine. And then for the next layer, just like the procedure painting the raspberries, is a more intense, more concentrated paint of permanent violet with cobalt blue, wrapping around these highlight spots. Yeah, so there are always multiple color transitions and values of every single surface that we see. And using leftover violet to shade the jam area of the cake a little bit, grabbing some leftover diluted brown for the chocolate piece on the fruit tart. Now it's time to paint the muted areas, the white surfaces of cups and saucers and plates. So I'm starting with this bluish gray that I came up with by mixing cobalt blue and permanent violet together, starting with like a medium light wash. and then being very bold to paint the shadow of the cup landing on the saucer. And yeah, so all of these white surfaces, they're mildly shaded in light gray. And now I'm switching to my Faber-Castell water brush to refine the shape of the shadow here. And for the little metallic cup, shade the left side a little bit more. And painting the shadow for the fruit tart, which is pretty clear, a medium dark silhouette. And the shadow of the slice of cake. And the shadow of the fork's handle is very interesting because it's in the air. The shadow is more far away from it. And a bit of accentuation of shadow right touching the bottom edge of the cup. Same for the little spoon. So the shadow tone is the heaviest, wrapping around the very edge of all solid objects, pretty close to the table surface. And shadows can make our objects look even more compelling on the paper and turning everything alive. Now, I want to kind of render the crust of the cake a little bit more using orange brown. So as you can see, I'm using a slightly heavier value of stippling marks to get a higher contrast for the crust area, which has a really special texture. Icing sugar mixed with a spongy surface. Okay, now it's time to enjoy the food and drink and then move on to some new sketches. So I'm looking around and I see multiple aspects that I want to sketch of this cafe interior. And first of all, I want to start sketching the couple sitting on my right hand side with the heritage buildings outside the windows. Now I'm starting to draw the foreground element, the bare branched tree, the major branches all connected together into the trunk, using loose lines for the trunk texture. So now I'm drawing the head of the man, and yeah, he's bald, and he only has a bit of hair on the lower part of the head, one of the earlobes, loose strands of hair, the collar, the shoulder, and his extremely foreshortened hand. Now I'm drawing his partner, starting with this tied up area of the hair, the face, and the ear, and some loose hair dangling down. Same thing for the right side of the head, eyebrows. And keeping these facial features in very simple lines and little shapes. It could be a little cartoony. For strangers, we don't have to draw them in photorealistic styles. And color areas could be very expressive to draw, and it kind of shows that person's personality. Adding some wrinkles around the lips to give her a bit of age, and giving her a cup of coffee. So her sweater is like intense black. I'm using my brown ink to color it fully in, just so my drawing has more density, more than just lines. Now, this building here on the right, it looks more three-dimensional as we can see two sides of it. The right side is the biggest rectangle that we can see of the rectangular prism. Now, on the bottom of these buildings, I want to insert a car parked on the side of the street, just to give a sense of proportion. And drawing the railings of a balcony here on the second level. So most shapes on buildings are squares and rectangles in different sizes and in overlapping relationships. Yeah, so this part of the building is denting in a little bit. I'm using these short segments of lines to suggest the inward direction, and drawing these window frames, display windows, and the little lamp shining in the little room of the store. So these lines are above our eye level, which is the same level as the lady that I just drew. They're all going down to the left. Now these lines are going down to the right as they are below our eye level. Okay, and drawing some more simple shapes of rectangles, of windows, the awning of the shop front, which is very much like a triangular prism shape. The side of the prism is kind of like a trapezoid, and having fun drawing and shading in these windows that we can see and guess what's behind those window panels, the mysterious interior of that store. So when you're drawing windows, other than just drawing simple lines of the same pressure, think about accentuating some parts of the frames and also shade in some of the window panels with solid black or brown or gray ink, just so there's really a room behind each window. Drawing these relaxing, straightforward horizontal lines. And yeah, that's pretty much it, the drawing of this little sketch. And now it's time to spread all the colors on the buildings and the sky. So I'm mixing cerulean blue and cobalt blue together to just quickly and loosely paint this flat blue sky as I perceive outside the window. And now I just mixed yellow and leftover red together, diluted with a lot of water to get the skin color for the lady and her partner, to paint their face, their head, and their hands. And I just cleaned my brush to grab some pure cadmium yellow to paint the exterior of this building here on the left. And grabbing some orange to paint these little window frames. Yeah, so I always love the designs of heritage buildings, which are often pretty colorful. Yeah, makes me happy to see these fancy buildings on this cold winter day. And now I just mixed lots of lime green with cerulean blue to get a turquoise color for the exterior of this building here on the right. And I really wish that, in our present and future world, we could continue to have this style of buildings, I guess is the Victorian style buildings, to exist in the world, because they are so much more lively and hopeful compared to the glass and concrete skyscrapers. Yeah, so there's so much history, culture, and aesthetics about these heritage buildings. And now just painting lightly of the awning with leftover yellow and shaded with leftover gray in my palette. So I think pretty much all of these vibrant and warm colors are painted in. So now I'm just painting these little cool colors and also painting these orange-red window frames that I forgot to paint in earlier, and keep using the leftover gray in my palette for these neutral colored areas, like for most cars. This lady's sweater is gray, starting with a lighter value and then shaded with a heavier value. And for the man's jacket, I perceive it as kind of a bluish gray, and I'm using Prussian blue to get it done, starting with a fairly light value, and then grabbing the same blue to shade most of it so he's sitting against the light. And now the cake slice is standing out so much better with the help of blue jacket. Now I'm using this brownish green to paint the tree. Again, first layer, a very diluted version, and then shade one side of the tree with the same color in a more concentrated version. And this color is called olive brown in the Mungyo 24 color palette. And grabbing some cobalt and Prussian blue to glaze over the turquoise green on the left side of this building because it's more shaded, receiving a lot of shadow from that yellow building. And I'm using leftover cerulean and cobalt blue mix to paint a heavier value for the sky so it looks more fluid. And that's pretty much it, the painting of this little sketch. Now it's time to move on to the frame on the left. And I see these ladies are happily chatting and gathering in front of me at this common table. Yeah, so when sketching people, I usually start to trace out the shape of the hair first, and then the profile, contour outline of the face, keeping the facial features very simplified. The neck, and the shoulder, and the upper arm, the hood of the jacket. And yeah, it's pretty simple to sketch half body portraits. And now I'm ready to draw the next lady. There are 4 ladies in the group. And moving on next, I'm tracing out the contour outline of the Christmas tree from left to right, at the same time getting these ornamental balls and branches in as I'm getting the outline, and then moving on to the inner details. Yeah, so more ornamental balls and little branches spreading out from the cone shape. Okay, so now I'm drawing the lamp hood and the shine. Okay, and I love drawing lamps at interiors, and then drawing the door frame. So as you can see, I started drawing the foreground elements, which are these ladies, the middle ground, which is the Christmas tree, and the background, which is the lamp and the door frames. Yeah, so a lot of straight lines when you're drawing doors and windows, but your lines don't have to be 100% straight. And now just getting this picture frame in with a nice quote in there. Okay, now it's time to add on the wreath on the door, which is a fluffy donut shape, and then drawing that little light switch there. And it's time to paint again. So just illuminate most of these areas with diluted yellow ochre as usual, just to warm up the space. And there's always this hidden yellow on those seemingly grayish walls. And I'm going to do the same thing for the Christmas tree. There are some little light bulbs on there shining yellow. And yeah, for the glassy doors as well. So lamp lights could easily be projected onto glass. And then same recipe, yellow and red, or orange and red, diluted with a lot of water for the skin color. And raw umber for their hair. And finishing up the warm colors with the lady's furry jacket. And then starting to punch in these neutral colors of gray jackets using leftover purplish and bluish grays. And now it's time to paint the Christmas tree. So starting with Viridian green and mix a little bit of yellow ochre into it. Playing with value transition using the same green. And then the next layer of color is the shading color. So I mixed burnt sienna into Viridian green for this pretty dark shade to show contrast and giving a sense of volume to the tree. Yeah, so as you can see, the dark tone of the tree is really pushing the ladies out of the paper. So giving a really nice visual illusion of depths, just like the way the jacket of the man there on the right is pushing the slice of cake even better out of the page. and grabbing leftover gray to shade the lower part of the wall areas because the higher part of the walls are receiving more lamplight. Lower parts are more shaded. Yeah, so using this purplish gray to push the two girls on the left even better out of the page, and grabbing some vibrant red to paint these red leaves of little plants on the table, giving these girls more red cheeks using diluted red. Yeah, and then using leftover gray to paint these ornamental bowls, which are all like silver colored. And then some more concentrated bluish gray to shade these girls' jackets. And same for the furry jacket here as well. Under the armpit is usually shaded. Yeah, so another layer of more concentrated brown to paint these hair for the ladies. Yeah, so outside the doors is the view of lawn and some evergreen trees shining in the sunlight. So the sun is coming out more from the clouds and the world outside is glowing with energy. And final polish, a little bit more grays and shade these bars on the window frames. So here's the look of my finished sketchbook page spread. So it was like a 2.5 hour stay at the cafe, soaking in all of these holiday vibes, surrounded by these happy people, exchanging gifts and in conversations. So again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. So the building of this bakery cafe is a heritage building built around 100 years ago. And let's walk through this antique store before heading home. So I just love these Christmas decorations, the big and small ornaments, Santa on the sleigh, that fancy Christmas tree, Mickey on the trike, and the adorable nutcrackers. Okay, now let's go in. Seems like there's a lot of people in there. Yeah, so they have a lot of these vintage and antique ceramics, and this is the corner of a lot of Christmas stuff. Yeah, I just love everything in here. And I'm continuing to feel blessed to receive this beautiful sunshine during the rain season of Vancouver. It's very rare to have blue sky in winter. Okay, so I'll see you around next time, probably in 2025. Take care, everyone. Bye.